Hello and welcome to The Yak. My name is Tom and today I'm going to reveal my favourite 10 King Crimson songs. So my top 10 Crimson songs. Now that is not an easy task. To start with, by now the band has recorded a lot of material, 13 studio albums in fact, so I did have another listen to all these and then selected my top 10 from all those songs. So the band has had an almost countless number of lineup changes since the start, and the only member who has always been present has been Robert Fripp. So Fripp applied for a position in the band which soon evolved into King Crimson. And to elaborate slightly, Fripp, a guitar player mind you, responded to an advertisement for a singing organist, i.e. a singing Hammond organist, which he clearly was not, but he still got the gig. And it was not long before Greg Lake came on board to play bass and do the singing, and Ian MacDonald joined to play keyboards and other instruments. Most memorably perhaps the mellotron, an early keyboard playing pre-recorded sounds such as strings, flutes and choirs. Musically, Crimson drew upon many influences ranging from jazz to heavy metal, folk, classical and industrial, with Fripp at the musical helm providing the creative driving force, giving rise to the evolution of many diverging musical paths and styles. And I've also recently presented a review on the King Crimson movie documentary called In the Court of the Crimson King. So here is the link if you wish to view this. I have included some music to help set the mood in this review, and even though I'm trying to promote the band, I've had to use cover songs as some of the original Crimson versions were blocked due to copyright reasons on a test upload which I made. So I will list the YouTube sources to give these cover performers and sources due credit, so thank you to you. So at number 10 I have Fallen Angel from Red 1974. This song begins as a simple acoustic ballad, and after two verses a heavy guitar arpeggio begins which forms the basis for the chorus. And this soon builds to a dark and heavy brooding dirge. We also hear a cornet and oboe played during the chorus which gives the song a bit of a jazzy feel, but remarkably it all works well against the dark musical backdrop. Now the heavy guitar arpeggio I mentioned earlier reminds me a little of the song I Want You, She's So Heavy from the Beatles' Abbey Road album. The song ends on this dark, heavy and slightly hypnotic chord progression in a minor key, which is in fact a fitting and satisfying conclusion to the song, even though the chord progression just repeats. And lyrically the song speaks about the tragedy of losing a young brother, the fallen angel, to gang violence in New York, and the loneliness and grief that follows. But it's not a biographical account. The physical setting of New York is also the same as that described in the popular musical West Side Story, which also touches on a group violence theme. And the song is haunting and beautiful. It always evokes emotion and features the trio lineup of Fripp, Wetton and Bruford from the highly acclaimed Red album. Number 9. The Night Watch from Starless and Bible Black, recorded in 1974. This song has a beautiful melody and features a romantic, sustaining guitar riff provided by Fripp. The song begins with a shimmering crescendo of guitar chords, percussion, weepy violin and bass before John Wetton's soulful, weather-beaten voice brings to life what is essentially a story about the Rembrandt painting of the same name. The lyrics are written by the band's new lyricist Richard Palmer James, and it pivots around the swooning guitar motif and features one of Fripp's most lyrical guitar solos. Wetton delivers a beautiful short story about the painting, and I love the medieval sounding lyrics. And I'm going to remind you of just a few of these lines. Shine, shine, the light of good works shine. The watch before the city gates, depicted in their pride. That golden light, all grimy now, 300 years have passed. The worthy captain and his squad of troopers standing fast. So the song is short, only lasting about 4.5 minutes, and well, you just don't want it to end. Number 8. At number 8, Larks, Tongues and Aspic, Part 1 from the album of the same name, recorded in 1973. This is an exciting musical experience which back in 1973 would have been one of the most innovative prog rock tracks of all time. The song starts off with some quiet, dreamy percussion before a short staccato violin motif is introduced. Then the focus rapidly shifts to Fripp's distorted guitar, sort of circling high above, and you're waiting for something to happen. And then it does, as it swoops down and then tries to grab you. And then the Larks tongue chord progression hits. It is brooding and twisted, full of bad intent, but is strangely satisfying. Fripp then begins a complex and crazed guitar riff, which Wetton adds to by playing a nice bass groove and then transitions to distorted bass with wah-wah. Bruford also plays some manic drum work which builds the intensity, and overall this section is brilliant. Fripp then returns and frantically repeats a single guitar chord, which to me sounds a little like a World War II plane which has lost control and is about to crash. A spooky section of violin then follows as we sit in limbo for a while before audio from a disturbing TV drama builds in intensity in the background. And finally we are rewarded by a short but superb coda with sonorous fuzz to basically close out the track. Now I'll admit there is a little bit of padding, but basically it's an interesting, thrilling and satisfying journey. Number 7. One More Red Nightmare from Red 1974, and I love this album and this song. Now, Wetton's lyrics depict a traveller in an airplane flying at 10,000 feet when it loses control and begins a deadly nosedive to the ground. And just before impact, he awakes. And of course, if you know the song, the traveller is actually in a Greyhound bus which is just driving on the road. One of the real highlights in this song is Bruford's masterclass playing, particularly in the second half of the song, in which he showcases lots of great rhythmic ideas. I also love the sound of the punchy China cymbal strikes. The alto saxophone solo is played by multi-instrumentalist Ian MacDonald. It's a beautifully constructed jazz excursion solo, and it sounds so right in the context of the song, and again shows how talented MacDonald was. Bringing the whole piece together are Fripp and John Wetton, who provide some dark, heavy and menacing riffs to complete a beautifully crafted song. And rather than fading out, the song finishes very abruptly, which again reminds me of the end of I Want You, She's So Heavy from the Beatles' Abbey Road album. Number 6. Epitaph from In the Court of the Crimson King, 1969. Okay, so this is the first appearance on this list from Crimson's 1969 debut album. The song is grand, it is dark, it is apocalyptic, haunting and powerful. It combines mournful guitar, melancholic and haunting vocals sung by Greg Lake, and swelling mellotron chords. It describes the senselessness of war with a remarkable, powerful passion. And I always wait for the gigantic swell from the mellotron about halfway through the track. And also the rolls on the timpanis at the start and the end of the song, which also add a nice touch. Epitaph is a powerful moment for Crimson. Musically, it's simple but evokes an incredible amount of emotion. Number 5. The Court of the Crimson King from the album of the same name, recorded in 1969. So this song was composed by Ian MacDonald before Fripp and others joined the band, and contains the hallmark mellotron sound which helped to set King Crimson apart from other prog rock bands at that time. The song also features some beautiful vocals sung by Greg Lake. Musically, the song is pretty simple. Both the verses and choruses are dark in this song, and the verses are also musically sparse. The choruses really build the track, especially with the mellotron and backing vocals, to make them feel quite uplifting despite the minor key. There is also a really nice flute solo performed by MacDonald midway through the track. On to number 4. Red, the title track from the 1974 album. At this point, the band had slimmed to a power trio of Fripp, John Wetton and Bill Bruford. Red is a consistently solid, intense album and is one of the heaviest the band has recorded to date. It offers an array of menacing, magnificent, brutal and indulgent riffs to delight our musical senses. Red, the title track, is an instrumental and a magnificent opener that beautifully sets the scene for what the listener will experience for the remainder of the album. The classic heavy riff, which begins early in the song, is fierce. It is raw and dense and keeps grinding away relentlessly and ruthlessly to drive the song to a fulfilling conclusion 6 minutes away. But you'll always want more. Number 3.
Man.
21st Century Schizoid Man from the In the Court of the Crimson King album. This is certainly a jewel in the crown. It is the opener from the In the Court of the Crimson album and can be considered as the song that might have begun the prog rock movement. The song is pretty much an early prog rock anthem and to many the signature tune by Crimson. Now in 1969, listeners were accustomed to the raw sounds of Zeppelin, Cream and Hendrix, but this song sounded a whole lot more radical. The track begins with an opening fanfare of shrieking saxophone, distorted guitar chords and Greg Lake's menacing distorted vocals, bellowing Sinfield's bizarre, gripping, gothic-inspired lyrics, beginning with the vocals immediately capture your attention. Now, back in 1969, when this album was released, the Vietnam War was a current issue, and many people opposed outside involvement in this war on moral grounds, being appalled by the devastation and the violence. So, taking this into consideration, the lyrics probably describe the person of the future, where soldiers returning from war suffer from PTSD and become schizophrenic. Their reality is distorted in a way that a good luck charm of a cat's foot now appears as a hideous iron claw. And insecurity, paranoia and insanity prevail, and neurosurgeons providing treatment are also crazed, giving rise to the new human face of the 21st century, the 21st century schizoid man. Well, that's my take on it anyway. The song at the time had a very shocking and aggressive sound, combining elements of proto-metal, rock and jazz. At the 2-minute 30 mark, during a heavy instrumental section, we can easily recognise a guitar solo played by a very young Robert Fripp. The solo comes during a heavy instrumental middle section with Lake on bass, Michael Giles on drums and an alto saxophone solo by Ian MacDonald, creating a musical mash of prog rock, jazz and heavy metal, I suppose. Now, Schizoid Man isn't so much a song as it is an experience that leaves you almost breathless a mere 7 minutes later.
Number 2.
Fracture from Starless and Bible Black, recorded in 1974. This is an instrumental and an almost legendary track with 11 minutes of constant guitar notes. Fripp describes this piece as impossible to play. Well, maybe for others, as he does seem to manage it with relative ease. This song certainly represents highlight performances, particularly by Fripp on guitar, Wetton on bass and Bruford on drums. They all combine to create a psychotic masterpiece. And considering it was done live in one take with Fripp's guitar as the only written part, makes this song an even more astonishing achievement. The guitar parts, in fact, are difficult as they require intense right-hand string skipping and picking capabilities, which are extremely challenging to master. So I really love the heavy section which comes in just before the 8-minute mark in the original to make the track really rock from this point to the end. So the question is, what is going to be my number 1 pick? And what haven't I mentioned yet? number 1, I have Starless from Red, 1974. Now, I must admit that I have done a little bit of reshuffling near the top over the last few days. But now, to me, this song delivers so much, and I think that overall, it is probably the perfect Crimson package. It is a masterful piece written largely by Wetton, and the song was originally rejected by Fripp as a contribution to the previous Starless and Bible Black album, but was reworked with help from Fripp to make this the masterpiece it became. The original song title was retained, which shows that legacy, and incidentally, Wetton also sings the line Starless and Bible Black as the last line in the song before the lengthy instrumental section begins. I really think this song is one of their greatest achievements, and it's the last track on the album and stands as a glorious 12-minute epic. So, well, what a way to finish the album. The song begins with an eerie mellotron and guitar intro with Wetton delivering a very delicate, melancholic, fragile and beautiful vocal. It paints a picture of blackness or a night sky which is starless and empty. Then Fripp starts playing a hypnotic guitar note to a bass line started by Wetton in 13/4 time. And it just gets bigger and bigger, becoming a completely thrilling crescendo, occasionally moving up in pitch as the other members come on board to build the tension, intensity and dynamics. And then the whole thing becomes very frenzied indeed, and then it just finally detonates a few minutes later. I just love it. The song then breaks into a jazz-inspired section with saxophone before eventually mellowing into a wonderful outro. And this gives a wonderful and pleasing finish to the song and reprises part of the earlier vocal melody in a completely masterful way. Starless is a roller coaster ride that offers so much. So, okay, that is it. These are my top 10 picks from all the King Crimson songs. So how do my top 10 compare with your top 10 Crimson picks? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and ring the bell. So thank you for watching and see you next time.